Hello, I'm here with Books Not Bombs, and today we're going to read Food Not Bombs by C.T. Butler and Keith McHenry. We're going to start with the foreword by Howard Zinn. This is an extraordinary book, written by an extraordinary community of people. Their presence became known to me quite gradually over a long period of time. I began to notice their tables, their signs and their cauldrons of hot soup and supplies of nutritious vegetables at meetings, at demonstrations, and on city streets. Then one night I was invited to a gathering place for poets, musicians, and performers of all sorts who were possessed of some social consciousness, and there was a counter at the side of the room, and again that sign, Food Not Bombs. This time I paid more than ordinary attention, because I recognized the man behind the counter, Eric Weinberger. I had met him 25 years before on the road from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, in the Great Civil Rights March of 1965, and again in 1977, in another march, this time of anti-nuclear activists, into the site of the Seabrook nuclear power plant. Now another dozen years had elapsed, and he was with Food Not Bombs. I thought, these Food Not Bombs folk are carrying on the long march of the American people, moving slowly but inexorably toward a livable society. The message of Food Not Bombs is simple and powerful. No one should be without food in a world so richly provided with land, sun, and human ingenuity. No consideration of money, no demand for profit, should stand in the way of any hungry or malnourished child or any adult in need. Here are people who will not be bamboozled by the laws of the market that say only people who can afford to buy something can have it. Even before the recent collapse of the Soviet Union, it was an absurd and immoral policy to spend hundreds of billions of dollars each year to support a nuclear arsenal that, if used, would bring about the greatest genocide in human history, and if not used, would constitute an enormous theft from the American people. Today, with no Soviet threat and the policy of spending $1 trillion over the next few years to maintain a nuclear arsenal, other weapons, and a worldwide network of military bases is even more absurd. The slogan, Food Not Bombs, is even more recognizable today as clear common sense. This slogan requires no complicated analysis. Those 3 words say it all. They point unerringly to the double challenge, to feed immediately people who are without adequate food, and to replace a system whose priorities are power and profit, with one meeting the needs of all human beings. It is rare to find a book that combines long-range wisdom with practical advice, but here is a treasury of such advice. It tells in specific detail how to form a Food Not Bombs group, how to collect food, how to prepare it, and how to distribute it. Every step in this process is intertwined with the warning, do not allow self-appointed leaders or elites to make the important decisions. Decisions must be made democratically with as wide a participation as possible, aiming to reach a consensus. The idea here is profound. If we want a good society, we need not shout, but rather show how life should be lived. Yes, this book is truly nutritious. Preface. Preface to Revised Edition. When this book was originally published in 1992, we couldn't have imagined the scope and scale of Food Not Bombs at the turn of the century. We thought that we might play a role in changing society, but we couldn't have predicted that volunteers would be working with Food Not Bombs in over 175 communities around the world. This massive growth took place in a time when Food Not Bombs faced intense police interference, including over 700 arrests and dozens of beatings in San Francisco alone. This amazing story has been ignored by the national media, but Food Not Bombs does not depend on that media. Food Not Bombs' message has traveled throughout the world by word of mouth, flyers, videos, fanzines, the internet, and music. The joy of sharing free food with the hungry has inspired volunteers to overcome the obstacles of poverty and bureaucratic terrorism. The dream of a world at peace with abundance seems possible while doing Food Not Bomb's work. The magic of Food Not Bombs continues to be an inspiration. For many people, involvement with this movement has changed their lives. Most radical social movements that start in the United States are crushed or co-opted by the government, but this has not happened with Food Not Bombs. Decentralization, non-hierarchical structure, and direct democracy are powerful aids to survival and to avoiding co-optation. The founders of Food Not Bombs thought that there must be some way to end war and poverty, and that living theater and mutual aid on the streets might be the most effective use of our time and resources. In short, we were searching for a way to reach a public unfamiliar with alternative ways of organizing society and of relating to our fellow human beings. We believe that every bowl of free food that a Food Not Bombs volunteer hands to a hungry person is a step in that direction. After 20 years, Food Not Bombs has taken on a life of its own. In the early days, we, CT and Keith, would propose gatherings and Food Not Bombs actions, but we felt uncomfortable about taking on leadership roles in a decentralized, non-hierarchical movement. As a Food Not Bombs matured, we stepped back to let new people fill our shoes. Today, there are people organizing chapters, gatherings, and events who weren't even born when Food Not Bombs started. Who knows where Food Not Bombs movement will go? Is it possible that it will move from being a colorful subculture to becoming a part of the foundation of a new society of peace, justice, and well-being? Only time will tell. By C.T. Butler and Keith McHenry. Chapter 1. Why Food Not Bombs? Food. The world produces enough food to feed everyone, if distributed equally. There is an abundance of food. In fact, in this country, every day, in every city, far more edible food is discarded than is needed to feed those who do not have enough to eat. Consider this. Before food reaches your table, it is produced and handled by farmers, co-ops, manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, and retailers. Some perfectly edible food is discarded for a variety of business reasons at every step. In the average city, approximately 10% of all solid waste is food. This is an incredible total of 46 billion pounds nationally per year, or just under 200 pounds per person per year. Estimates indicate that only 4 billion pounds of food per year would be required to completely end hunger in America, and there is clearly an abundance of edible, recoverable food being thrown away. To recover this edible food and use it to feed people, 3 key elements must be combined. First, the food must be collected. Second, it must be prepared in a form appropriate for consumption. Third, the food must be made easily accessible to those who are hungry. The reason this is not already happening is no accident. We do not have a democratic say in how food is produced or distributed. People would certainly elect to eat, but in hierarchical economies, the threat of job loss allows owners to keep wages low, and underclass results from such policies that encourage domination and violence. In our society, it is acceptable to profit from others' suffering and misery. Today, according to Harvard School of Public Health, people living below the poverty line, less than $9,069 annual income for a family of 3, are going hungry at least once a month, and over 30 million people are going hungry on a regular basis. Astonishingly, less than 15% of the hungry are homeless. Moreover, the explosion of hunger has outstripped the ability of existing hunger relief programs, both governmental and private, to satisfy this crucial need. Many do not realize that the demographics of the hungry have changed dramatically. Over the last decade, they have become younger, 12.9 million, 40% are children, the true victims of this tragedy. Poorer, 12.9 million, 40% live below the poverty line. This gap is widening as the real income of the bottom 4/5 of our population continues to decrease. More likely to be employed. 60% of poor families include workers, and the number of working hungry rose 50% from 1978 to 1986. more likely to be female. 50% of poor families are headed by women. Less likely to overcome poverty. Clearly, the majority of people going hungry today are not the stereotyped street person as the media would have you believe. Hungry people are children and single parents, mostly women, the working poor, the unemployed, the elderly, the chronically ill, and those on fixed income, such as veterans and people with physical and mental challenges, differences, and disabilities. All of these people find themselves in the clutches of oppressive poverty, even while trying to improve their condition. In addition to collecting and distributing and the distribution of surplus food to help solve this problem, Food Not Bombs encourages vegetarianism. If more people were vegetarian and demanded organically grown, locally produced foods, this would encourage organic farming practices and support smaller farms. This in turn would make it easier to decentralize the means of food production and to create democratic control over the quality of food produced and the stewardship of the land. More people can be fed from 1 acre of land on a vegetarian diet rather than a meat-based one. Our society's current meat-based diet allows for huge agribusinesses and dependency on chemical fertilizers and pesticides, resulting in declining nutritional value of food produced and also destruction of the environment. All mass-produced meats in this country are full of chemicals, drugs, enhancers, and preservatives, and all milk is contaminated with radioactive fallout. Vegetarianism would be better for the environment, consume less resources, and be healthier for us. While we encourage awareness of vegetarianism for political and economic reasons, this policy also has several more immediate benefits. The potential for problems of food spoilage are greatly reduced when dealing strictly with vegetables, and members of the group tend to eat a more healthy diet as they learn more about vegetarianism. Also, teaching people about the health benefits of a vegetarian diet actually creates a healthy, caring attitude towards ourselves, others, and the planet as a whole. Therefore, all the food we prepare is strictly from vegetable sources, that is, no meat, dairy, or eggs. People know and trust this standard for Food Not Bombs food whenever they come to our table. Not bombs. It will take imagination and work to create a world without bombs. Food Not Bombs recognizes our part as providing sustenance for people at demonstrations and events so they can continue participating in the long-term struggle against militarism. We also make bringing our message to other progressive movements part of our mission. We attend others' organizations' events and support coalition building whenever possible. We work against the perspective of scarcity that causes many people to fear cooperation amongst groups. They believe they must keep apart to preserve their resources. So we try to encourage feelings of abundance and recognition that if we cooperate together, all becomes stronger. Being at the center of the action with our food is part of our vision. Sometimes we organize the event, sometimes we provide food at another organization's event. Providing food for more than one day is more than just a good idea, it is a necessity. Either the movement can seek food services from the outside and be dependent on businesses that may not be progressive, or we can provide food for ourselves. Clearly, it is Food Not Bombs' position that providing for our own basic needs in ways that comprehensively support the movement is far more empowering. We have provided food at long-term direct actions, such as annual peace encampment, sponsored by the American Peace Test at the Nevada Nuclear Weapons Test Site, to tent cities that highlight homelessness and hunger in San Francisco, Boston, New York, and Washington, D.C., and for the regular feeding of the homeless in highly visible locations throughout the country. How Food Not Bombs got its name. During 1980, a group of friends who were active in the protests against the Seabrook nuclear power project were searching for a way to connect the issue of nuclear power and militarism. One of our many activities was to spray paint anti-nuclear and anti-war slogans on public buildings and sidewalks using stencils. One of our favorite was spray painting the words, "Money for food, not bombs," on the sidewalk at grocery stores' exits in our neighborhood. One night, after an outing of spray painting, we had the inspiration to use the slogan, "Food Not Bombs," as our name. By having a slogan, the message of our group would be clear, and by repeating our name over and over again, even the media would be getting the political concept of food and not bombs to the public. We would not have to proselytize because our name would say it all. As we arrived with the food, people would say, "Hey, here comes Food Not Bombs." Logistics. Starting a Food Not Bombs. Taking personal responsibility and doing something about the problem of our society can be both empowering and intimidating. Voting for the best candidate or giving money to your favorite charity are worthwhile activities, but many people want to do more. What to do and how to get started are hard to discover, especially with social problems as large as homelessness, hunger, and militarism. This handbook will assist you in getting on a path toward taking personal direct action on these issues. Above all, the Food Not Bombs experience is an opportunity for self-empowerment. In addition to the obvious political message we try to convey, the two major components of Food Not Bombs' day-to-day work are the recovery and redistribution of surplus food and the feeding of the hungry. Political organizing is more rewarding if it produces both greater political awareness and direct service. At every step along the way, you will face many choices. Some we will describe in this handbook, but others will be unique to your situation. You will need to make decisions that are best for your local operation. We can tell you from our experience that it will be both hard work and a lot of fun, and we will try to share with you those things we have learned that might both assist you and help you to avoid the problems we have already encountered. This handbook is a beginning from which to take off on your own adventure, and is based on more than 10 years of experience, but that does not give us all the answers. Every day brings more challenges and new learning opportunities. The Food Not Bombs experience is a living, dynamic adventure that expands with every person who participates in it. Even today, as more and more Food Not Bombs groups start in their cities, we are discovering that each group brings with it new ideas, new visions, and new ways of developing its own identity. This handbook contains only the most basic information necessary for you to start your group on its way. 7 steps to organizing a local Food Not Bombs. At the outset, starting a Food Not Bombs might seem like more than you can handle. Work on the basics, taking one step at a time. There is no need to feel pressured to accomplish everything at once. It might take a couple of weeks to get things rolling, or it might take months. One person cannot be a Food Not Bombs group, but one person can be the starter of one group. Once you have made the decision to start a local Food Not Bombs group, pick a meeting date, time, and place, and gather together everyone interested to talk about what you would like to do. You might start with a group of friends or members of an existing group, or it could be people who respond to posters announcing your intentions. The following is a step-by-step process to get your food operation up and running. Because of your unique situation, you may need to add, ignore, or reorder steps. Follow the path you feel will work best for your group. Step 1. Start by getting a phone number and mailing address. By using either a voicemail box or an answering machine, you can have an outgoing message with information about the next meeting time and place, and receive messages so that you will never miss a call. Likewise, use a commercial mailbox or post office box for your permanent address. Step 2. Make flyers announcing the existence of a local Food Not Bombs group. By handing them out at events, posting them around town, or mailing them to your friends, you will get additional volunteers. It is helpful to have regular scheduled weekly meetings and always know the date of the next one. Step 3. Arrange for the use of a vehicle. Among the members of your group, there might be enough vehicles of the right size for your needs, but if not, you might be able to borrow a van or truck from a sympathetic church group or similar organization. If you are very lucky, you could be able to find someone to donate one to you. If none of the above succeeds, you can always hold fundraising events specifically for the purchase of a van. Step 4. With flyers in hand, begin looking for sources of food. The first places to approach are the local food co-ops and health food stores. These types of stores tend to be supportive of and are a good place to practice your approach. Tell them you plan to give the food to shelters and soup kitchens to feed hungry people, and if they are interested and willing, arrange for a regular time to pick up the food each day, or as often as practical. Where appropriate, leave literature that explains what Food Not Bombs does. Step 5. Deliver your collected food to shelters and meal kitchens. It is important to get to know the food pantries and soup kitchens in your area. Learn where they are located, whom they serve, and how many they serve. This information will help you plan your delivery route and to distribute the appropriate types and amount of food to each program. It is usually desirable to arrange a regular delivery schedule with each kitchen. Step 6. Once this network becomes established, start to skim food out of the flow without disrupting the program. With this food, prepare meals to serve on the streets. Go to rallies and demonstrations first. There your group can recruit more volunteers, collect donations, and lift the spirits of those at the event. Giving out meals at a rally builds community and supports the cause in a very direct way. Step 7. Once enough people are involved, consider serving meals in a visible way 1 day a week to the homeless on the streets. Cooking and serving food there builds community within the group and is hard work, but this is also great fun. Pick highly visible locations because part of our mission is to help make the invisible homeless more visible. We also want to reach out to anyone and everyone with our political message of Food Not Bombs, and we want to be very accessible. The office. In general, it is the Food Not Bombs style to operate on as low a financial level as possible. Always strive to get the most from your resources. One way to keep operating expenses low is to use only a mailbox and answering service as your office. Thus, by not having a standing office, there is no need to use valuable volunteer time staffing it. This allows the volunteers to spend more time on the street and our tables, whether serving meals or distributing information, because the office where group business is conducted and people who want to meet us can find us. One of our goals for doing street work is to bring people with different economic backgrounds directly into contact with each other. If your office is on the street, then you are very accessible, and all your actions are public. The people who are forced to live on the street will, over time, develop a great deal of respect for your group, and you will experience directly a piece of street life and develop first-hand knowledge of the popular opinions on the issues of the day. The cost for establishing this part of the Food Not Bombs operation is affordable for any group. Decision making. Another goal of Food Not Bombs is the creation of opportunities for self-empowerment. The way to do this within the group is to create an environment where every member is encouraged to participate in decision making, take initiative, and fill the various roles necessary for smooth functioning of the group. We make decisions by consensus rather than by voting. Voting is a win-or-lose model in which people are often more concerned about the number it takes to win a majority than they are in the issue itself. Consensus, on the other hand, is a process of synthesis, bringing together diverse elements and blending them into a decision which is acceptable to the entire group. In essence, it is a qualitative rather than quantitative method of decision-making. Each person's ideas are valued and become part of the decision. When everyone participates in the discussion of an idea, trust develops and people feel valued and committed to the result. A proposal is stronger when everyone works together to create the best possible decision for the group. Any idea can be considered, but only those ideas everyone thinks are in the best interest of the group are adopted. There are several models of consensus that your group might choose to adopt. It is most important, however, that whatever process you use is clear, consistent, and able to be easily taught and learned so that all can participate fully. Many progressive groups avoid having leaders who might dominate the group. However, it is a mistake to think that a group does not need leadership roles. To avoid having power concentrated in the hands of a few entrenched leaders, encourage leadership skills in every member of your group and rotate all roles. This can be accomplished by holding skill-building trainings and by encouraging supporting people to be self-empowered, especially those who are generally reserved. This helps the group become more democratic and helps individuals feel more satisfied and therefore less likely to burn out or fade away. Outreach. It is very important, less expensive, and more effective than you might imagine. The appendix of this book has a recruiting flyer you can use that has been effective in attracting new people to Food Not Bombs. You can use this copy by putting your phone number and address in the appropriate spots, or you can create your own. This and other flyers can be put on bulletin boards on local schools, cafes, health food stores, bookstores, and laundrettes. Post recruitment flyers on a regular basis. It is good to continually bring in new people with fresh ideas and enthusiasm. In addition to posting flyers in public areas, visit all the peace and justice organizations in your community. Leave your flyers and collect their literature to place on your own information table. Also go to all the soup kitchens, pantries, shelters, and advocacy groups for those suffering from economic injustices and distribute your literature. Don't be discouraged by a lukewarm reception. At first, these groups might view Food Not Bombs as competition for scarce resources, or they may be strongly opposed to connecting the issues of hunger, homelessness, and economic injustice with other political issues such as militarism. Many direct service agencies accept the role of caregiver for the most oppressed in our society without challenging the root causes of that oppression. They prefer to keep a low profile and support the status quo and will be very fearful of anyone who does challenge the system. However, because the vision of Food Not Bombs is the creation of abundance by recovering surplus food, your free food will be a way to reach out to them and gradually win their support. This kind of outreach will become the foundation of widespread community support that could be very valuable to your group in the future. As your effort grows, you can organize and sponsor special events that will attract more people to join in the work and the fun. Examples of these kind of events are concerts, poetry readings, rallies, lectures, and film festivals. Before these events, be sure to call all the press listed in the yellow pages for your town and invite them to come. Even though the coverage can sometimes be unsympathetic, it is still valuable to have Food Not Bombs mentioned in the press. In our experience, most people understand the concept of Food Not Bombs and are not misled by negative reporting. At these events, a special attention grabber is the display of a huge banner proclaiming Food Not Bombs. This banner is very useful when the media takes pictures because if nothing else, the words Food Not Bombs will be displayed. You can also use the Food Not Bombs logo of a purple fist holding a carrot as much as you want. Our national office has buttons, bumper stickers, t-shirts, and banners with this logo for you to use in fundraising and promotion. Food collection. Food recovery is the backbone of the Food Not Bombs operation. Discovering sources of surplus food might at first appear to be a major challenge, but mostly it just takes confidence and patience. Every business in the food industry is a potential source of recoverable food, from wholesale to retail, and from production to distribution. Sometimes it may take some creativity and persistence to convince a stubborn manager to allow you to have some waste food but in most instances, the business will be very cooperative. You will need to decide if you want the business owners or managers to know that some of the food will be used for political organizing or the name of the group, Food Not Bombs. At some stores, this will not be an issue. At others, it might be better left unsaid until they get to know you better. Start by making arrangements to collect food at organic produce warehouses, bakeries, and natural food stores. Ask the workers at these businesses if they have any edible food that they regularly throw away, and if so, that they would be willing to give to you. Be sure to point out that by collecting this food, you will be saving them money on their waste disposal bill. They will certainly be aware of how expensive it is to have this surplus hauled away as waste and how costs keep growing each year as more and more landfills become exhausted. One of the byproducts of our program is the reduction of waste in our society. While in the process of collecting contacts in the food industry, you should also be determining the availability of drivers and vehicles. There needs to be at least one volunteer to drive each day. Make a schedule convenient to both store and driver. It is important to be flexible but also reliable. Business will hesitate to agree if they do not feel they can rely on this waste removal method on a regular basis. It is a tradition with Food Not Bombs to always be on time. Therefore, do not overextend yourself. It is extremely more common to get too much food than not enough, but only do as much as is comfortable. After all, some recovery of food is better than no recovery at all. Also, take time to make friends with the workers at the sites where food is collected. These workers make the day-to-day decisions about how much food is recovered, and they can make an effort to recover even more if they feel comfortable with you. The variety of food that can be recovered is unlimited. Be creative. Any perishable food is going to be intentionally overstocked, so there will be a regular surplus destined to be wasted. Look for sources of surplus bagels, breads, and pastries, organic fruits and vegetables, tofu, and some packaged food. Sometimes you might need to buy a non-perishables like rice, beans, miso, condiments, and spices at natural food stores, but these stores will often supply these for free. Eventually, work your way up to collecting at warehouses, farms, and wholesale distributors. The volume of food available to recover is immense, but be selective. Take what you can use from the highest quality. In many places, there is no need to recover commercial produce because there is plenty of organic produce to recover. In fact, one of our political messages is that there is more edible food being thrown away each day by the food industry than there are hungry people to eat it. Food distribution. At first, deliver the bulk of the food you collect to soup kitchens and pantries in your area. From your earlier research and contacts, it is likely that you will already know which kitchens are interested in receiving food. Also, deliver bulk food to food pantries, striking workers, daycare centers, battered women's shelters, refugees, and the like. Contact organizations already working directly in the community, and if their staff would take responsibility for equitable distribution of free food once a week. Since they already have a base of operations in the community, their staff know the people in need, how great their need is, and how best to distribute it to them. Encourage them to use free food distribution programs as a way to increase participation in their other programs. Use the food as an organizing tool. Sometimes Food Not Bombs organizes the distribution of bulk food at housing projects or on street corners, but you might also give out bulk food along the prepared meal at your food tables. One of our goals is the encouragement of the awareness of the food's abundance as well as the undermining of the market of scarcity that places profits before people. The kitchen. Once you have this network of collection and distribution in operation, begin using some of the recoverable food to prepare hot meals. You will need to find a kitchen to use and several pieces of equipment necessary for feeding large numbers of people that are not found in the average kitchen. A full equipment list can be found in the recipes section. There are several methods of finding suitable kitchen space. Sometimes it is possible to arrange to use the kitchen in a community center, place of worship, or public building. A large kitchen in a collective house or a number of average-sized kitchens also might be sufficient, but sometimes cooking right on the street in a field kitchen is the best solution. Each solution has its own advantages and disadvantages, and the demands of your meal distribution program will determine your kitchen needs. Often a combination of kitchen spaces is necessary for different aspects of your schedule. You might use a church kitchen for your weekly meal to the homeless, a field kitchen for a large rally in the park, and a volunteer's kitchen for a catered lunch. The key is finding the right size kitchen for each event. Since Food Not Bombs groups do some amount of cooking outdoors, it is a good idea to acquire a camp stove. Propane seems to be the best fuel for cooking in field kitchens. The tanks can be refilled, and even the smaller ones last a long time on one filling. It is worthwhile to obtain a strong heavy-duty stove, and while that might cost more, it will last longer and be safe with larger pots. This and all the other equipment needed for food preparation and serving can be obtained from restaurant supply stores, thrift stores, yard sales, kitchen auctions, and friends. In general, the most important piece of the equipment are the cooking pots. You will need all different sizes, but the most valuable are the very large pots of 40 quarts or more. A couple of hundred people generally can be fed from a pot this size, depending on what is prepared in it, but these pots are hard to come by. Most people who have pots this size will not loan them out. The cheapest pots to buy are aluminum, but we discourage their use because of toxicity. If you must use aluminum pots, never prepare miso or tomato-based recipes in them. The aluminum will corrode and leach into the food. Try to have stainless steel pots donated to you, and once you have a collection of pots and lids, be very careful with them. It is not uncommon to lose pots between the kitchen and the vehicle, or between the vehicle and the serving table. Also, try to avoid having the pots in a situation that might lead to arrest. Transfer the food into smaller, less valuable pots or plastic buckets for these times. Another valuable piece of equipment is the 5-gallon plastic bucket. These can usually be obtained free from natural food stores and co-ops. Ask them to save and give you peanut butter buckets, tofu buckets, and other large plastic containers in which food is delivered in, and they do not need or have to return. Don't forget to collect the lids too. These containers are valuable for food storage, transportation, and serving. They can also be used for many other purposes because they are fairly easy to get. They are also good to use in situations where you cannot be sure they will be returned. Food preparation. The major issue to address when considering how to prepare at low cost for large numbers of people is one of logistics. Getting the proper amount of food, the necessary equipment, a suitable kitchen, and the cooking team all together at the same time might sometimes seem like a miracle, but it can be done. Each local chapter will develop its own method of food preparation. The following is a general guide. The volunteer cooking team usually meets at the kitchen a few hours before the meal is scheduled to be served. They often help unload the food and equipment from the Food Not Bombs vehicle, always wash their hands with soap before cooking, and plan the menu by looking at what food you have and how many people you are planning to feed. Then sort out all the useful food and wash it. The most time-consuming job in this process is washing and cutting the vegetables. Each cooking team usually operates with whatever management style is comfortable to them. Sometimes one person becomes the head cook for the whole team, and at other times each person takes one dish and prepares it from start to finish. The team may also choose to do everything cooperatively. The recipes you use can be ones you already know, or they can be from the recipe chapter of this book. Once the meal is prepared, the cooking team cleans the kitchen, packages the food for transportation, and loads it into the Food Not Bombs vehicle for delivery to the serving site. Sometimes the serving and cooking teams are the same people. Usually, they are different. The serving team arrives at the site and organizes the food distribution and staffing of the literature table. Always try to have a hand washing bucket with soap and a rinse bucket with just a little bleach so the volunteers can wash their hands before serving. Try to keep the food away from the literature. If a long line develops, have someone go up and down the line handing out bread or muffins, or maybe something to drink on hot days, so the wait is not too unbearable. This also helps reduce the tension created by fear that the food might run out. If you can find musicians or other street performers to come and perform while you're serving, this will also reduce tension and create a very positive, festive atmosphere. The serving team is also responsible for cleaning up both the site and the equipment, and for returning the equipment to wherever it was stored. The collection of cash donations at the food table is an ongoing debate. Sometimes it is completely out of place to ask for donations, but in other situations, people insist on being allowed to contribute to the collective work. In any event, always encourage the idea that everyone can have as much food as they want without regard to their ability to pay. Food is a right, not a privilege. Outdoor tables and field kitchens. At every outdoor event, the first decision the group needs to make is where to place the tables, and there are many important issues to consider. If possible, look at the location ahead of time. At demonstrations, having the food table as close as possible to the focal point of the demonstration has been very successful. Being close to the action encourages people to stay involved and not drift away. Sometimes the most desirable location is the one with the most foot traffic. Other times it is the most visible, accessible location for people without homes. It is always a good idea, however, to be sensitive to nearby restaurants and vendors with similar types of food. They might complain and have your operations shut down if they feel it is in competition with theirs. The following diagrams offer two possible layouts of your field kitchen. One is more basic, involving a minimum of equipment. The other involves more equipment and would be able to pass a health department inspection in most cities. In general, Food Not Bombs believes that our work does not require any permits. However, the city or the police often use the permit issue as a way to attempt to harass you and shut you down. Therefore, it is sometimes a good idea to have a fully equipped field kitchen. There may still be attempts to shut you down, but you can point out that it is not a health but a political issue they are raising. It is the Food Not Bombs position that we have a right to give away free food anytime, anywhere, without any permission from the state. This is a picture of a basic table distribution for Food Not Bombs. And here is an example of a field kitchen with Food Not Bombs. All right. Well, that concludes our Books Not Bombs reading for the night. Next time we will pick up on the chapter Beyond Food Collection and Distribution. Thank you.